The Prime Minister.
My sincere congratulations on behalf of the House and particularly on the government members of the House to Senior Constable Stephanie Ptsd for her incredible bravery, and I'm so pleased it's been recognised in the way it has in this award. And when you take those risks, we know when you take them, there are so many other things pressing in around you. Though off duty, she rushed into that home and found a child, a light on fire, and another being doused in petrol. Stephanie fought off the man who was the children's father, removed the children from the house and cared for the family. None of us can really comprehend the terror and the evil of that night. She said, "I took an oath to serve and protect the community, on or off duty, uniform or not, 24/7. Everyone in this chamber has sworn an oath. You have given us an incredible lesson about how you live up to one. Thank you, Stephanie."
So as I'm holding her, I've noticed that her skin had already melted into her chest, and that's why she couldn't lift her head up. And her ear had singed off as well. And since that incident, that's when I started having nightmares. That's when I started having insomnia. That's when I started having problems with concentration, irritability. I was in denial with my symptoms for 3 years because as police officers, you're told to you're pretty much trained to have thick skin and, you know, sticks and stones. When people speak at you, you have to learn to cop that type of abuse and hold yourself to a professional standard. And when you've been doing that for such a long time and then this happens, it's almost like you have to dehumanise yourself. So that's why I think it built up as time went on.
I basically woke up one morning and my first lot of symptoms started to present. High blood pressure, felt dizzy, things just weren't right. I think my body was mimicking a heart attack and I ended up in the emergency department. But I put it down to, you know, I've served 25 years as a police officer and I put it down to 20 plus years of policing and, you know, working in environments that sometimes are quite toxic. You know, I've worked at Major Crash where you're dealing with fatalities day in, day out. A 3-year-old girl that had overdosed and deceased, and you know, that was pretty traumatic when my wife was pregnant at the time. And then one day I woke up and I had a fear of driving the car and I couldn't drive the car. I guess 75% of me was functioning quite well, if not a little less. And it was the driving that was stressing me out, so it made it difficult to get from A to B. It was like my entire life had been taken away because I lost that freedom to just jump in the car and go do what I needed to do. You know, I would get to work and I'd have a headache because I was stressed and the tension and, you know, just from holding on, and then I would manage. And then when it was an hour from leaving, I'd start to tense again and get quite fearful of driving.
Yeah, PTSD is our brain dealing with all the things, all the traumas that we deal with. So, I mean, we all have trauma. It's a fact of life. You don't make it out of this life without any trauma at all. But some traumas are more intense than others, and some affect some people more than others. You could have two people that are standing side by side going through an experience, and some people come out of it with PTSD, where they have these kind of lingering thoughts or even totally subconscious reactions to certain things, situations, people, noises, anything can be a trigger.
A couple of days later, I was at the gym. I was just on the bench press, loved the gym, and I just started crying. The gym was my safe place, and I just started crying for no reason whatsoever. Just the anxiety was so high. I feared everything. I wasn't that 6 foot tall and bulletproof person anymore. That seeing how fragile life was over the years, and there was some quite nasty and it was just, there were some jobs in Geraldton that were horrific.
It's simply the nature of policing. From the things that they see, the things that they do, the scrutiny, the pressure that they're under, day in, day out, that heightened state of awareness from the minute you start work to the minute you go home. That doesn't go away sometimes, even when you're off duty. A classic example is 2019. It's reported about 700 police officers sought some sort of mental health or psychological support. Now we're talking about 5 times that. Nearly 3,500 police officers reaching out for some sort of help and support. It really is becoming quite the issue and quite a problem. They go to their doctor, they go to a psychologist, they go to a psychiatrist who puts a label or a name to what the condition, what they're dealing with, whether it's PTSD, whether it's anxiety, whether it's an adjustment disorder. They get a label. Quite often they get medication, then they go back to their psychologist, and it seems to be this continual cycle from there of psychologist, GP for medication, psychologist, GP for medication, psychologist. So they end up down the line, they've got a name of what their problem is, they've got medication for what their problem is, but I don't see them getting a whole lot better. And that's why I and the union looked around for something else. It was a referral from one of our members who we were talking to, who had reached out and touched base with Terry at Blissiree. So he reported me the benefits that he saw in it. Better moods, better sleep, deeper sleep, longer sleep, and it really did assist him. So I thought, maybe there's something in this. Yeah, and I'm the biggest skeptic of all, but I just know that we're at a point where we need to find something. We need to do something for some of these people who are really on the edge. So I reached out to Terry, and simply over a coffee, and I sat and spoke to Terry, and she explained to me what the process was and how it was complementary to current practices. And I thought, you know what, there's nothing to lose here. So we agreed that we would strike up a relationship between Blissiree and the police union, and we would look at supporting some of our officers who are in trouble to go through the program.
I started the journey back in 2006, and over the years we've treated over 10,000 people with great results.
Right, spot those on.
The core of this treatment is the positive auditory stimuli method. It works on the unconscious brain to change conscious behaviour. It's all available on a brain retraining app. All you do is press play, roll over, go to sleep, and you wake up feeling amazing.
And what Terry has developed is this whole program of positive auditory stimuli, where you're stimulating the brain with positive messages that you're taking in just auditory listening. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to take anything. You're not stimulating your brain with anything other than just listening. And the best part is that you get to sleep while it happens. So she's got these, messages that she's putting into the brain that's giving the brain instructions on how to heal. And it's amazing. It's still fairly new, so it's difficult for some people to wrap their brain around. And I always tell everyone when I talk about this, the easiest way is to experience it.
So when I finally sought help after being in denial for 3 years, that was 2018. I've done things, an accumulation of things, talk therapy, I've even hospitalisation. None of these things have worked. I figured I got nothing to lose, and I was at a point where I was actually desperate. When I first had a look online, I was like, retraining the brain? No, I was very suspicious, very sceptical. And I walked away from that first session, I was like, I feel good. Before Terry, I couldn't pull myself out of bed. I couldn't even, let alone get in to have a shower. I was that drained and exhausted, whereas now, I'm now motivated. It's almost like those feelings and those thoughts and those stresses dissolve, and I'm in a clear frame of mind again. It's bizarre how that's worked out to work in my favour now.
Immediately after the first session, I immediately felt a lot more relaxed. The thoughts in my head were non-existent. I found after a couple of weeks with Terry, I was messaging her going, Terry, there's nothing going on in my head. Like, is this normal? It's just weird because I felt for years there's been this heavy cloud, and that had gone, and it was overwhelming me a little bit because it was just unusual. Since I've been seeing Terry, whilst I've got all my care team in place, I haven't needed to speak to my psychologist because I've got nothing to talk about. which I find strange. But they've been there and checking in with me via text and let me know they're there if I need them. But I've just had nothing really to talk to them about, which is quite unusual as well.
My psychiatrist suggested or referred me to have transcranial magnetic stimulation, TMS, and I said, yep, no worries. Playing with my brain, I said, yep, cool, I'll do it. I don't care what it is, there's something wrong with me. I'm not getting better, I'll do it. I was told I wasn't able to have that treatment, even though my psychiatrist was referring me onto it. Deemed treatment resistant, I basically plateaued. I only got as far as I could. So I was on 4 lots of medications, having psychology every 2 weeks to 3 weeks, and I was still an absolute train wreck. I got a phone call from Dave Flattery from the union. He told me about Terry, and like I'm a pretty open-minded guy, but with a healthy level of skepticism. He told me about what it was, and he sent me a link to one of Terry's documentaries. It sounded like bullshit. It sounded like crap. You know, I was in a place of desperation. You know, the psychologists and the psychiatrist had done a great job for me, but due to the complexity of my trauma, I'd gone as far as I could. When I had my consultation with Terry, I thought, you know, what am I doing here? This is not going to work. You put headphones on, you put an eye mask on, and you lay back in this chair, and you just hearing Terry mumble in the background. And you're like, why am I doing this? Like, what is this? And I remember laying there just reminding myself, going, at least you're not talking about your problems. Like, at least you're not reliving your problems. Like, I like psychology, but I did get sick of talking about my problems over years and years and years, and only getting so far in treatment. Laid back, put the headphones on, put the mask on, listened to the music, and I fell asleep. When I woke up with this uncontrollable smile on my face. And I was like, what was that? What has happened? But it wasn't this smile from my face. It was a smile from my gut. I felt happy for the first time in years.
I can only tell you what I've witnessed throughout this program in relation to these members going to this Blissiree and the benefits that they report. Is that going to be for everyone? I don't know. Right? That's not my area of expertise, but I can tell you anecdotally what I see and what I'm being told. What I can say is from the 3 members that we certainly have in the program, all of them are reporting positive outcome. And then we're looking to hope maybe we can bring on WA Police, maybe we can bring on the government, because these are police officers that put their life on the line for the community. Maybe it's a little bit that people can give back.
I couldn't pull myself out of bed, whereas now I'm now motivated. I've rekindled my passion with my boxing. As soon as I hit a boxing bag, it's almost like those feelings and those thoughts and those stresses dissolve. I'm able to think a bit more rationally now, and I see my future being a lot more clearer. It's definitely made me realise that, no, we're all human, we're not robots.
The quicker you can get on top of whatever's going on, the greater chance you have to live a normalistic life down the track by getting that help. I've certainly, with Terry, stressed a lot less. With Terry's teachings, you know, that's another feather in the cap to start talking about to my colleagues and letting them know this alternative therapy is out there and it's relaxing and it's peaceful. I mean, you get to go see Terry and you get to shut your eyes for, 40 odd minutes and it's peaceful.
After my treatment with Terry, my head's still going, but it's quiet. I don't spend days in bed anymore. I don't spend days on the couch. I don't sweat anymore. I don't shake. My breathing doesn't change. I'm feeling better after having met her and undergoing the treatment. So still doing psychology, still doing my psychiatrist, but with Terry's treatment, I'm actually feeling a hell of a lot better than I ever have. I don't want to know what she does. I don't want to know how it works. It just works.